software is stupendous, and he's just a terrific guy to work with. I mean, he tells you like it is. He's really straight, and that's why I really like to present with him, because he just provides just this measure of integrity that you just don't find very often in this business. So what I'd like to introduce you today is to a very, very unique service. You're not going to see this offered almost anywhere else. I'm going to give you the introduction, then I'll just tell you a little bit of a history about it. But I feel it's quite unique and quite different. And at the end, I'm going to give you, if you stay to the end, I'm going to give you my next pick that's going to go into our micro-cap and small biotech portfolio. Now, let me just read the disclaimer that all signals and trading opportunities provided both orally, written, or electronically that are disclosed to visitors or subscribers are for educational and demonstration purposes only. Right Line Trading takes no responsibility for any participation by visitors or subscribers within the futures or forex markets, or for any profits or losses that may be incurred. Everyone knows that participating in trading futures, forex, or stocks can involve substantial amounts of risk, so you have to be careful. Consider your financial position before you make any trade. You have to do your own due diligence and consult a financial advisor. And we are not registered financial advisors nor licensed commodity trading advisors. Now, the reason I think this, these are just some of the reasons I think this is such a powerful system. First of all, it doesn't take a lot of money, because I'm going to be giving you picks. They're going to be either micro caps or small cap biotech stocks. You're not going to be looking at Amgen or looking at a big cap. So you can trade them in an IRA, you can trade them in a small account. And the formula that I use is really ignored by 99% of investors, because they don't have the logistics that's required in order to engineer these trades. And you're going to see it's really a team effort. And you're going to see the team that I've assembled in order to create trades that have a very high potential for success. And everybody wants to get a small micro cap stock that's going to skyrocket, or we believe is going to collapse. I mean that's a potential dream, because for a relatively small investment, you can reap a 300 or 400% winner. And I give it to you straight, and that's the truth. I'm going to show you a 400% winner that I had, and that's because these companies, what we're looking at, are companies that are creating new medicines. They're basically engineering new molecules, very oftentimes to treat diseases that currently have no cure whatsoever. And in doing so, they really literally burn through billions of dollars of cash. So they have to have an enormous pile of money to start. And it's a very long process from the first development of a new therapy to actually sending that new therapy into the pharmacy so you can get it via a prescription, or your doctor can prescribe it for you in the hospital. These companies are working on cures for cancer. They're working on cures for AIDS. That's why it always kind of makes me laugh when I hear, that the government has a cure for AIDS that they're hiding. The fact is that anybody who created one would be literally sitting on a company worth billions and billions of dollars. So everyone's rushing to make these therapies available to everybody. And like I said, it takes an enormous amount of money. Now, the testing process is very rigorous and it's very strict, and it goes through a 9-step process that I want to familiarize you with. Now, the first step, and I may have these, I don't. The first step is the discovery of the molecule. Maybe it's a new medicine for the treatment of pneumonia. Maybe it's a new therapy for a treatment of cancer, of a specific type of cancer. Maybe it's the treatment for a disease that right now has no cure. And you know what the big one is right now is Alzheimer's disease. There is no cure for Alzheimer's. And you've got multiple companies moving through the process trying to find that treatment. Whoever comes up with it is going to go from a small biotech to a company worth $150 or $200 in price. So those are the type of therapies they're working on. Recently, there's a disease called cystinuria. It's a disease where your body lacks an enzyme to break down the amino acid cysteine. And so cysteine accumulated in your blood, it's toxic to your kidneys, and ultimately you wind up dying from this. And there was a recent biotech who came out with the first powerful therapy for the treatment of cystinuria. The company skyrocketed. It wasn't a medicine that I was tracking, although I was aware of it. And when they got approved, that stock went nuts. And I'm going to show you some approvals. So then eventually they apply to the FDA for an investigational new drug IND. And what they do is they begin early clinical phase 1 trials. Now, without the IND in the preclinical development stage, the medicines are basically tested on rats and mice and in petri dishes. There's no human testing allowed until you get an IND from the FDA. And once you do, then you go to phase 1, where the company tests the drug on healthy volunteers who don't have any disease. In fact, a prerequisite for being in this study is that you're healthy. And what they're really looking for here is to determine the safety profile of the medicine and the potential toxicity profile. So it's done on a small number of people, or in this case, they once they're accepted, become patients. And the purpose, again, is to get a dose ranging feel and determine where the toxic level is. But it's not done or utilized to treat the disease. Now, this is a great way. You can get on a mailing list, and I know people who make money this way. They're relatively healthy, but they're lazy people. They don't want to work. And what they do is they get accepted into a lot of these phase 1 studies. They take the risk because you get paid for this, and they get into this phase 1 study, and they get administered the drug. It's not a long study. It only takes several months to a year to complete, which is really in the testing stage very short. And approximately 70% of companies who develop these new medicines or molecules advance past phase 1. So phase 1's not a major milestone. It's not one that we're going to recommend buying a biotech on, because it doesn't really move the price of the stock at all. Most companies do get approval, and it doesn't mean much, because in no way are you looking at therapeutic efficacy of the medicine. Now, phase 2, following the success and approval of phase 1, the companies move to phase 2, just step 5 in that arrow. Now, in this portion of the approval process, the drug is administered to up to several hundred patients actually suffering from the illness. And this test is done to determine the effectiveness and the side effects of the drug. Now, this trial usually takes anywhere from a few months up to 2 years. Most of these trials are 2 years or close. Because if you go to the FDA to look for a phase 2 approval too early, they'll send you back with a postponement telling you they really can't evaluate the efficacy or toxicity of the medicine until more time has passed. Now, phase 2 is essential in gauging the effectiveness and the future of the drug, since it's the first time the company has actually tested the medicine on patients suffering from disease. Now, the odds on the approval here are substantially lower. I wrote cut in half, but they are much smaller. So if you take all the companies that begin, you're now down to only about a third who pass and get approval on a phase 2 study. And a phase 2 study, a lot of traders believe is a non-event. But from my experience in doing this, it's a major event. And a phase 2 study will cause the stock to skyrocket. Because if you can show significant efficacy with a lack of toxicity in, say, 100 patients suffering from Alzheimer's disease, and we can use that as an example, although there are lots and lots of examples we could, that stock is going to take a major ride up. And then the momentum investors are going to get involved. It's going to overshoot its price. But if you're in it before that phase 2 study is announced, you're going to really be sitting pretty in that stock. Phase 3 is the one phase that every single investor agrees is the one that's going to skyrocket price. I'll tell you, a lot of traders and a lot of investors don't believe that phase 2 is a major milestone. I do. And I'm going to make recommendations based on an FDA decision on a phase 2 medicine. But the phase 3 approval is really the killer. I mean, this is the one that can take really $1 stock and take it to $50. And I kid you not, because there are very few medicines in the course of a year that get phase 3 approval. These are novel, brand new therapies that are going to wind up in the pharmacy and be able to be prescribed to you. So if a small biotech has a huge pipeline, but no approved medicines, and this one's scheduled or slated to bring in a significant amount of revenue, it's going to really take that stock up. And remember, if they bring one phase 3 medicine if they get approval on one, then the company is looked upon as having the potential for bringing multiple other medicines in their pipeline through the phase 3 process. And that's a big deal. I mean, all of a sudden investors take the people doing the work in the company very seriously. And it's a very hyped process because, as I said, success shows that there's a major promising future for real life application for the drug. And essentially, for many medicines, it's the last of the trials. Now, if you create a medicine in which there's already a therapy, you can go to phase 4 in which you look to prove that your medicine is better than the one that's out there. That's going to take the company up a little bit, but that's going to take years. I mean, if you ever heard of the Framingham study, where a lot of the cholesterol lowering medicines, the statin drugs were compared, simvastatin with all the other medicines, that took 10 years to complete, to decide which of the statin medicines was the most effective, which decreased your HDL cholesterol, which lowered the actual incidence of heart disease. So we don't even need bother with phase 4 studies. like I said, many companies don't ever do them because there is no other medicine on the market. And if they do want to proceed to phase 4, it's going to take them an enormous amount of time. Phase 3 is the big enchilada. And this is where the study medicine is administered from everywhere from several hundred to thousands of patients suffering from the disease and illness. And this is a major cash burning study because it takes, I wrote billions of dollars in revenue. Maybe it's hundreds of millions. It really depends on what you're looking at. You know, if it's immunological therapy that requires monoclonal antibody production, you're looking at billions of dollars. If it's a simpler molecule, you're looking at hundreds of millions. Either way, it's an enormous undertaking. And to gather up all of these patients, you got to float this study to hundreds of hospitals in the United States and literally create an overseeing board and do a tremendous amount of data gathering. It is really a major, major event. Now, I wrote it takes anywhere from 1 to 4 years. Usually it takes closer to, it's closer to 2 to 4. You can't do this study in 1. And the success rate obviously here is even lower. Only 25% of drugs make it past this phase. So out of 100 companies, we're only left with 5 that are ultimately going to pass the phase 3 study. Now, there's a lot of ways we can play the phase 3 event. And hang on one second. We can pass the phase 3 event. One is, now, companies after discovering the cure then go on for 4 to 7 years testing the drug's effectiveness. Again, I'm talking about cash burn and all the period of time it takes to get past 1, 2, and 3. And it is a make or break event. And I've been involved and done a lot of research on companies that come to phase 3 and then completely blow it, and they wind up going bankrupt. So there's the potential if you have a small biotech, you have 50 cent or 75% stock, and the therapy doesn't show any efficacy at all, you're going to wind up with a stock worth nothing. Now that's not often, doesn't happen often, but it happens occasionally. And one company that comes to mind was a company that was investigating a medicine that was supposed to, excuse me one second, was a company that was investigating an intravenous medicine that would decrease the death associated with septic shock. Now, septic shock is where like you get bacteria in your blood, and it's really total cardiovascular collapse and multi-organ system failure. And once you go into septic shock, the probability of dying is extraordinarily high. Can't give you a percentage, but it is way up there. And what they did is they created a medicine called interleukin-2 receptor blockers. They felt that the interleukin-2 molecule was a major component of septic shock, and that by blocking it, they could ameliorate its deleterious effects. It didn't work, and the company went belly up. So it really is a major, major event. If it's successful, you're going to get a killer appreciation in stock value. Again, I mean, the company really could double or triple in value from a phase 3 approval. And if they're denied, the company can go right to zero. And as you know, the odds are not in your favor. So there's 2 ways we're going to make money off a phase 3 trial. One way is that there's a high probability that as soon as the FDA announces the date where they're going to come out with a decision on a phase 3 study, investors start accumulating the stock. And a large percentage of these stocks start to rise in price into that phase 3 decision. That's a much lower risk way of making money. And they do consistently and reliably, with a fixed date from the FDA, appreciate in price. Now, if you hold through the phase 3 announcement, that's where you can make your hundreds of percent amount of money. Trading into the phase 3 is smaller profits, but the risk is much more controlled. Trading through phase 3 is where that you're taking a little more risk, but you're looking for a major profit here. So let's look at the aftermath of a phase 3 report. So since the phase 3 approval process is the backbone to oftentimes the whole company and the drug, there's a lot of hype around it. And like I said, traders accumulate stocks in lieu of a positive report. Now, I consider these to be bets because they're not really, a lot of these traders don't care about the ultimate outcome of phase 3. They just know what I know, and that is that a lot of traders accumulate into phase 3. So it becomes, or stage 3, so it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Everyone seems to know that this is a major event, which could cause a major appreciation in stock value. So they buy into it. And the thing is, very few hold through it. So I'm just going to give you some examples. Here's one stock with a phase 3 approval. It's ZGNX, and it was trading about $9 a share upon release of a phase 3 report acceptance. It went up $42 overnight. That was a 466% gain. You can't see that anywhere else, except even if a company's been bought out. And I had a company like that in our options portfolio, Pivotal. It was purchased. I forgot the company that purchased it. It doubled in price. This is the only place you're going to see a 466% gain. That's real, not just baloney. The stock went up 1,084%. And this is AQXP. I didn't bother to go into what molecule it was and what the purpose of was, because it's too much detail. I don't want to bore you. Excuse me. It was trading about $11 a share. Phase 3 report, it went up to $56 a share, 509%. I'm not hyping it. You get a phase 3 approval, you're going to get 200 to 500%. Now, these are picks that I took. This is AXSM. I thought I'd put more information in it, but I just wanted to show you. We're in at around $1.94, out at $16.80, 404%. This is MOBQ. I'm still holding MOBQ, and I shouldn't be holding it, but I decided to hold it. We're in at 7 cents. It went to 24 cents. I didn't calculate a percentage. I'm continuing to hold it an appreciable profit, but I should have sold it and recommended it be sold. And here's KSHB that went from about $2 a share to over $8 a share on a phase 3 approval. Enormous profit. Now, I wanted to show you the other side of the coin because it's only fair. There's also catastrophes. This is AXON, Axon. Again, I'm not going to go into detail about the medicine that was given a phase 3 denial, but you can see it literally decimated the company. $25 down to $1 and change. It was trading at 28. It went down to 5 in the next few days, and you can see when it went down even lower than that. Here's another company, Celgene. That's a big company. And Celgene got really beaten up on EpiPen, if you remember, when Hillary Clinton decided that they were bilking patients on manipulating the molecule and continually coming out with new patented medicine, not letting it go into the generic stage. Now I think Celgene's down to about $32. I haven't checked it in a long time. Oh, that's Mylan Labs. Not Celgene. That was Mylan. But Celgene got this denial. This is a big company, so it only went from 150 to 82. But that's a big knock upside the head. It's a 36% loss on a big company that's going to take a couple of years to even get close to going back up to where it was. If you're holding, it's going to be dead money in your portfolio forever. So you can see that there's tremendous risk involved. So there's two ways that we can profit from this. The first is phase 1, 2, and 3, we know about the money. And we know that the stock is going to rise in price before the phase 3 hearing and actual decision. So the backbone of our more conservative investing strategy is to buy really early and ride that appreciation up. Now you're going to be looking at maybe a 10 to 15% capital appreciation on the stock. You're not going to be getting 100% or 200%, because again, it's that self-fulfilling prophecy. And remember, there's a lot of hype around a phase 3 study. There's a lot of press releases. These companies go to a lot of biotech investor seminars and meetings. Obviously, they're going to talk really, really strongly about their approval potential, and they're going to seduce people into coming aboard. And the stock is reliably going to rise in price. Now, it's not 100%. I mean, I want to be as straightforward as I can, but it's a very low risk, high reward trade if you know a little bit about the medicine. If you just willy-nilly buy the announcement of a phase 3, you will not get that almost guaranteed appreciable rise in price. Now, there's a couple of newsletters out there that recommend just that. And I've listened to them, and what they do is they recommend that every time you get a phase 3 date from the FDA, you simply buy the stock. And I've personally seen a lot of these stocks do nothing, or they fall in price because they don't know anything about what the medicine does and what its chance is for getting an FDA approval. You have to take this much, much further than this. And there's a service out there that's very expensive. I think it's $2,000 a year. And all they do is recommend buying into phase 3 announcements, and every stock's going to rise. That's just not the case. So we can do that, or an exit before the results are released, or we can hold through the study. And if we do get an approval, we're going to we're going to rake it in. And you saw some of the trades that I recommended, and those trades, 400%, 500%, great announcements. Now, I'll tell you about that in a second. Now, here is what you need to do in order. I'm not going to go through all the statistics again. You know that basically 1 out of every 20 companies are going to get a phase 3 trial approval. So the odds, if you just go with every phase 3 potential trial, that you're going to get shellacked. So what you have to do is you have to have a lot of information. And what I do is, there's a lot of information out there. You have to do a Nexus Lexis search. You have to do a thorough investigation of all the literature, and you have to work with specialists. I work with 3 professors at the University of Miami School of Medicine, and we go and assess the probability that an experimental medicine will get a phase 3 approval. And that's the evaluation I send out to you. Now, this is going to increase your chance for a huge winner appreciably. It's also almost going to, it's not going to guarantee, but the probability that you're going to get a rise in price on the stock into the phase 3 announcement is extraordinarily high, because we've done our due diligence and we believe that we're looking at one of those 1 in 20 companies that's going to get a phase 3 or stage 3 FDA approval. In these guys, we have a hematologist, oncologist, an immunologist, and a gastroenterologist. All 3 of them are brilliant, and all 3 of them look at the medicines that are specific to their field. Those are where the big medicines are coming from. You know, in oncology for cancer, in immunology, and gastroenterology, big medicines. They're also able to make really good assessments of medicines for cardiovascular disease. The one addition we need is a neurologist for drugs for the treatment of Alzheimer's and central nervous system diseases. But between all of us, we make a really good assessment as to what's going to happen. And that's what the recommendation is really based on. So you can keep track of all the hearing dates. Now I want to go on to tell you this. I have yet to pick a trade that has lost money at the end of the day. The biggest problem that you have, which no one else is going to tell you about, but it happens, is that the FDA will announce a phase 3 date. And let's say, you know, the stage 3 or phase 3 date is September 15th. And then all of a sudden on September 13th, they say that they're going to postpone the date. And the date's going to be in November. Well, that's going to cause the stock to fall in price. That's the one caveat and the one variable we cannot control. And remember that who sits on the FDA? A bunch of bureaucrats. And what do they do all day is basically, you know, take 6-hour lunches. Over the summertime is the worst. We're sitting with 4 medicines right now that have simply had their FDA phase 3 studies postponed. And we have quite a few winners. One, I only made 1%. And that was, I just closed it out because the phase 3 study was put off for so many months that we'll come back to it and revisit it. I'm not going to hold it forever. So that's the one thing. But we can usually exit these positions usually for a small profit. I just exited another one where the FDA phase 3 approval was put off indefinitely for God knows what reason. And we exited, I think, with a 4 or 5% profit. So it's not risky. You just got to get out right away if the postponement date is really significantly prolonged. And that's something I didn't have to tell you, but I want you to know. And the summertime, which is passing now, is the worst period of time for FDA postponements. You know, if somebody gets a hiccup, they all go home and they will postpone the date because they're under no pressure. They are under significant political pressure in certain areas, and one of those are pain management. And that's the recommendation I'm going to give to you, is a pain management medication, and I'm going to show you how we're going to play it and how I'm going to recommend it. So if we come out and feel that this medicine has a very, very high likelihood, 75 to 80% chance of a phase 3 approval, you can play the trade one of two ways. And that is, you're going to buy it. It is very likely to appreciate in value, not astronomically, but it should give you a nice solid winner. And then if you want to really take a shot, you're going to hold through the phase 3. If you hold through with our backing, and we're giving these to you from a bunch of brilliant people, and I'm excluding myself from that, you're going to grab the 400 and 500% winners. And these stocks may be $1 to start. There was one that was 6 cents that went to 25 cents. That's a huge appreciation in price. Now, I'm going to give you the recommendations as to when to get out and to when to get in. I mean, if you want to just trade the phase 3 announcement, I'm going to give you an exit. And if you want to trade through phase 3, which I almost always do on the medicines that I recommend, the rest of us are just going to hold tight, hope for an approval, which I believe we're very likely to get, and watch and see how far the stock runs. Now, there was one stock we're holding in the portfolio that got a phase 3 approval for a medicine to treat pneumonia that was acquired in the community, not hospital-acquired pneumonia. Now, the stock appreciated overnight 27% in value, and I recommended to hold it. And I think that was a mistake, because the Momo investors got hold of it. They pushed it past 30%, and then it came right back to its original price. But the reason I wanted to hold it was because it's coming up in October or November for another phase 3 review, which I have strong belief is going to get approved, which I think is going to take the stock up 200 or 300%. What I should have done was sold it plus 30 and then bought back, but I never thought it would come back this far. We're still holding it break even. We just lost an opportunity to make money. So it's not as easy as it looks. And the couple of other services that do this make it seem like it's just cake. You know, phase 3 approval, buy, price appreciates, you make tons of money, and that's the end of it. It's not. It takes a lot of work and a lot of management. Now, in addition to these recommendations, and I'm going to give you one at the end of this webinar, and I'm telling you, I'd recommend that you trade it, because I'm going to trade it. You're purchasing the service for 6 months. And the other thing that you can always do, but I don't strongly recommend it in most situations, is you can buy either the stock or buy a call. The reason that buying a call is riskier, but you can do it if you have a smaller portfolio. And remember, they're thinly traded stocks. Some of them don't have options positions, but if they do, they probably have small open interest. And in addition, if you're holding the stock and there's an FDA postponement, you're not hurt. The stock is, may depreciate in value a little bit, but that big payola, that big payday, still there. Your call may expire worthless, and you don't want to buy a long-term call. And since these stocks are so cheap for the most part, you're usually going to want to buy the stock. Now, the position I'm going to recommend is a rare recommendation to buy a put. I'm going to show it to you. You're also going to get, these are the bonuses, my recommendation for the best pot stock to buy now. I've done a lot of work on it, and I want to move into the pot stock arena, because I think there's a lot of money to be made and a lot of money to be lost. You just have to know the right companies to enter. But this is without a doubt, in my opinion, the best pot stock. And then I created an 11-page report that you can read about FDA fast lanes. Now, if you happen to be holding a medicine that's up for phase 3 approval, and then it gets approved for a fast track, you're going to get your 300 or 400% before the FDA even makes the approval. That's like, you wake up in the morning and you're in heaven, but you're still alive, because they only fast track drugs that they believe are going to be approved, and also in which they're under tremendous political pressure to get out to people, because it has tremendous clinical value in terms of treating patients. And a lot of these orphan drugs, like a medicine to treat cystinuria, will oftentimes get a fast track lane, because everybody who has the disease right now is dying from it. So the FDA doesn't want to sit there on this stage 3 or phase 3 decision while people are literally dying every week from it, when the likelihood of getting an approval is high. So they're going to get fast tracked, and you're going to get a skyrocket. I want you to be able to read about it and understand what a fast track and fast lanes are, because there are multiple different fast lanes. And then I'm going to give you my top 3 big cap biotech stocks. And these are not stocks that you want to trade. I mean, I believe that these are great stocks to hold in a long-term account for capital appreciation. They all pay great dividends. And, so if you're 25 years old and your time horizon is 20 years, and you want to diversify your portfolio with biotech, a couple of these are going to be the stocks that you want to go. You're going to want to go with. And you're going to get monthly. We're all going to sit down together. We're going to have monthly strategy and educational sessions. And they're going to be very, very good. We're going to go over all the phase 3 medicines. You're going to learn a lot. And it's open chat, and everyone can talk about their trades. And, remember, on a phase 3, some traders can ride it all the way up. Some can ride it up just into the report. Now, in addition, no, I'm sorry, that's it. So it's normally $1,000. It's only $297. And the first 10 orders are going to get all my options picks. I call it my options alert newsletter. And I want to always be humble, because the market is a humbling instrument. Just when you think you've gotten it beat, it like gives you a kick in the butt that really it smarts. But I'm a really good options trader, and our options portfolio is really doing outstanding. I take every trade I recommend. I mean, as a matter of full disclosure, if I recommend the trade, I take it. And I recommend an exact entry price, an exact exit price, and I do a tremendous amount of due diligence on every position. And I can tell you right now, I'll tell you a few of our spreads. We're holding a Sony spread. Sony is doing awesome on the spread. We're holding a spread on Crown Castle International. It's doing great. I just got into Cisco Systems. It's early, but it's strong. I just got into Comcast, and now today I tried to get into Nike, but I always look for a 1 or 2% pullback, and market gapped up, and we didn't get into Nike, and Nike flew, and I still may chase Nike. I'm gonna have to see. But we didn't get into Nike, and I'm looking at another company called Myocardia. I'm not going to trade as a biotech, because it's $54 stock, and it's a little too expensive to recommend as a small biotech. So I'm going to put it in the options portfolio on a bull put spread, because it's got a lot of volatility. So let's sell it and keep the net credit. We couldn't get that either, because it went up 4.25% today. So I couldn't get into either one of those. So that's the additional service you're going to get if you're one of the first 10 orders. And the cost of the whole thing is $297. Now, I have a whole bunch of honest, real testimonials. I won't waste your time with them. But I mean, I have traders who have made a lot of money in one day on one recommendation because it connected. And here's the recommendation. Here's the stock that I'm going to recommend to you and it's going into the portfolio, and I'm going to put it out on Monday, just because in this one, there's no huge rush to get in, but I would get in the next couple of days. Now, it's a company that is up for a phase 3 decision of a medicine for chronic low back pain. And the candidate, it doesn't even have a name. It's called Nectar 181. Now, the problem with the drug is it's an opioid analgesic. And you know what's going on in this country with opioids. I mean, there's an opioid epidemic. So the FDA looks really askance or askew at any medicine that's opioid based for pain management of any kind, because you can already use 100 different opioid-based medicines to treat chronic low back pain. Now, this one seems to be better. It has less addictive properties. It has a longer half-life. But if you have chronic low back pain, you're going to be on this medicine forever. I mean, when does chronic low back pain stop? Just the fact that it's chronic tells you it's going to go on for years. So again, what you're doing is you're creating pharmaceutically induced addicts. So they are not so crazy about approving any opioid-based medicine right at this time. And they're under tremendous political pressure not to do it. So already the FDA stage 3, phase 3 has been put off once, and I believe it's going to be put off again. Now, it was scheduled on August 29th. It's been postponed again. So the longer the investors are left in the dark, the better, because I believe that this company is going to really depreciate in value. And in addition, based upon all the information I've accumulated and my discussion with my 3 colleagues, we don't believe it's going to get FDA approval. So we're recommending on buying a put. You can buy the stock short. There's no doubt about it. But I think the best way, we're going to get a decision sometime in September. That's never an absolute guarantee, but it's very likely that we will. And you can buy the $16.50 put or the $17 put. Do your own due diligence on the position you want to take, but I think the probability of Nectar falling significantly is very, very high. And I just want to, always remember that the trades carry considerable risk, but I believe that this risk is controlled, and we've got a really great opportunity to make really good money. There's decent open interest at these levels. They're decent puts to buy, and I think that traders are looking at this position on the short side rather than the long side. I think it's very unlikely the FDA is going to approve the 700th medicine to treat chronic low back pain. I just don't think it will. Now, even if it has a marginally better safety profile, it still won't approve it because of the political pressure it's under, because of the opioid epidemic. So that's my recommendation. Only you in this webinar are getting. I'm not sending this out in the news. And if you come aboard, you're going to get this one and all the other ones. And this one is going to go out over the weekend. Because Nectar's just kind of sitting around. It's going to start to plummet. So that's it. So let me see if there are any questions. I hope I didn't make this too wordy and cumbersome, but it's a topic I really love because if you really understand what's going on, you do a lot of due diligence, you do a lot of reading. I have access to the University of Miami Library, and I can do a Nexus Lexis search for free. So all I got to do is submit it, and I can submit it over the telephone. They'll pull every single article ever published in the world literature in any language on that medicine. And I'm telling you, in that literature, along with 3 other professors who are very, very knowledgeable in this area, we come up with a very, very good idea of whether we're going to get approval or denial. And if we don't, we stand aside on the medicine. And you're going to see lots of medicines come up for stage 3 approval that we don't put in the portfolio one way or the other. And it's because it's just too difficult to call. And when they're too difficult to call, we're not going to give you that position. So let me see if there are any questions. Hope I didn't bore a lot of you to tears, but this is a really unique way of making money. And with a little bit of money, you can really take a position and make a real home run. Or like I said, you can trade it conservatively. I like to hold through the stage 2, phase 2 study because you got a better likelihood of success, and you're getting at a really nice bump in price. So let me go through and see the questions. Hang on 1 second here. I know some of these are going to be for Lee. Okay. Now, Lee, I'm trying to remember what time Lee stopped. Okay. Okay. Now, I don't know if this question's for me or for Lee about the winning percentage or profit factor. Right now in our closed positions, our winning percentage, honest to God, is 100%. I have not taken a losing position. Now we have 4 open positions that are awaiting that phase 3 approval. And this will be a 4th. This will be a 5th. But I have not closed out a losing position yet. Okay, these are for Lee. Okay, these are for Lee. You know what, Eric? The number of phase 3 trades typically in a month is very variable because it's up to the FDA. Like over the summer, there weren't that many. Now, I believe going into the fall, there should be a significant number. Now, and remember just, the last thing I'm going to add, and that is there's a lot of medicines going up for phase 3 approval that we're not going to take a position on because they're too hard to call. I mean, I don't want to make a buy or sell, take a long or short position on a medicine that we can't come up with a very, very strong opinion regarding its approval or denial. So there's a big slice of them that we're never going to bring. I'm never going to bring to your attention. I'd say you're going to get 5 to 7 recommendations a month. I mean, that's an estimate. Now there were less over the summer, but that's always the case with the FDA, because the FDA takes their vacations and they leave, just like Congress goes on vacation. So I think that's about how many you're going to get. You're going to get plenty. The renewal price for the subscription, Lee, something I don't even know. But listen, you've got 6 months, and the renewal price will be on the buy page. So you got 6 months. This isn't like this is not like a 1 week subscription. So if you don't like it, you got 6 months before you get any rebilling. And you could just simply call us if you think the price is too high and say, cancel, I don't want to renew. And then if you really love it, come back and say, okay, let the renewal go through. We don't want to rebill you unless you want it. And if it bills you by accidentally, we would return your money anyway. You call us up and say, you know what, I forgot, I really don't want the newsletter. I really don't want to pay that money. Rory will reimburse you. So don't worry about that. Unless you want to stay aboard, we are not going to say tough luck. We're keeping your money. We just don't work that way. So don't even concern yourself with that. So listen, everyone, thank you so much for giving me your time. I hope to see you aboard. My goal is to make you money with options and to make you money with small biotech. I am doing it with options. We really are busting a move on options. The link to subscribe, Lee. Rory? It's in the chat box, Lee, and you're going to receive it very, very soon by email. But if you look in the chat box, you'll see the link to subscribe. Okay. And I really appreciate, your desire to come aboard. I'm telling you, I do a lot of work to make sure I make you money on this. And I'm in these positions also as a matter of full disclosure. I don't just recommend them, and I don't send out nonsensical hype. I mean, if we get a big bombshell to the upside, I'm going to let it go, but it's going to be real, and everyone's going to be in it. So listen, have a really, really great evening. Have a great holiday. You got 3 days coming up. Here in South Florida, everyone's worried about a hurricane, and it might blow us all away. You better subscribe now before the office gets blown down. And I have to send out the alerts from my bunker, my subterranean bunker. But listen, have a really, really nice afternoon and have a great holiday. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.